Okay, let's dive in. Today we're unpacking a really profound topic, something that touches on courage, fidelity, especially when things get incredibly tough. Our main source is Bishop Athanasius Schneider's book, No Greater Love, The True Meaning of Martyrdom.
Yeah, and that title, No Greater Love, it signals right away this isn't just a historical recount. Bishop Schneider, he's the auxiliary bishop in Astana, Kazakhstan, is known for being a really strong voice for Catholic tradition. Our goal here, our mission in this deep dive, is sort of to synthesize his thinking and maybe push past that standard image of martyrdom, the lions in the arena.
The classic idea.
Exactly. He gives a much broader definition.
And he starts right at the beginning with the word itself, which is crucial context, I think.
Totally. The Greek word martus, it simply means witness.
Just witness.
Yeah. So martyrdom, fundamentally, is about being the ultimate Christian witness. It's the highest form of testimony to Christ.
But here's where it gets interesting, and this is kind of the hook, isn't it? Schneider says it's not only about dying for the faith.
Precisely. That's the key shift. It's also about living the faith heroically, day in, day out. He defines martyrdom as the perfect act of love. It's about imitating Christ's sacrifice on the cross, a total self-gift.
Wow, okay. That really raises the bar for, well, everyone, not just saints we read about. If it's about daily heroism, we need to understand what that looks like practically.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to these core ideas in the book, these distinctions he makes using this really vivid analogy, the three colors of witness.
It's a fantastic framework, makes it very clear. The first color is the one everybody recognizes, red martyrdom.
Red. Easy enough.
Yeah, the traditional definition. The literal shedding of blood for your faith. Think St. Stephen, the early church martyrs.
The most visible kind, definitely. But then he moves into the more, let's say, spiritual and daily aspects.
Yeah.
That's where white martyrdom comes in.
Exactly, white martyrdom. This is about the daily sacrifice, people who dedicate their lives to God through prayer or maybe through chastity or even hidden suffering, those unseen battles we fight internally.
So it's often internal, and crucially, it's deliberate, like choosing a specific discipline.
Right. Intense spiritual discipline is key here. Think vows of chastity, poverty, obedience maybe. You're actively choosing to put aside your own will, your own desires, day after day, out of love for God. It's a kind of slow, constant giving up of self.
Okay, so white martyrdom is that chosen internal discipline, often hidden. So what about the third one, green martyrdom? How does that differ from white? They sound potentially similar.
That's a really important distinction to grasp. Green martyrdom isn't so much about a discipline you choose, like taking a vow. It's more about the patient endurance of suffering that's, well, unavoidable.
Unavoidable suffering. Like what?
Things like maybe chronic illness or really difficult family situations that just don't go away, or perhaps long-term poverty that you bear with grace, uniting it to Christ's suffering on the cross. The green suggests endurance, maybe even hope, something growing through hardship over time.
Ah, I see. So white is the chosen spiritual path, the act of self-denial. Green is more about accepting and offering up trials that come from outside, circumstances you can't control, whether physical or psychological. Patient endurance versus active discipline.
You've got it. It's that difference between actively taking something on versus patiently bearing what's laid upon you. And Schneider uses examples to show these aren't always totally separate boxes.
Right.
Take St. Stephen again, obviously red martyrdom, right? He's being stoned, but in that moment he prays for his persecutor.
Yeah, Lord, do not hold this sin against them.
Exactly. That act, in the midst of dying, transforms his red suffering. It becomes this incredible witness of charity, a kind of white martyrdom element woven into the red. He united the external assault with internal love.
Making the suffering redemptive, not just
Yeah.
awful.
Precisely. And Schneider points out that countless saints did this. They turned their suffering, whether it was a quick death or years of hardship, into this powerful living testimony of love.
So we have red bloody death, white chosen spiritual discipline, green patient endurance of unavoidable trials. But what's the common thread? What makes them all fundamentally martyrdom in Schneider's view?
That's the core of his argument, really. He says all three are rooted in the very same thing, this incredibly powerful, supernatural love for God. A love so strong it overcomes our deepest instincts, fear, self-preservation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Whether it's the instant sacrifice of red martyrdom or that slow, grinding endurance of green martyrdom, the depth of love needed to make that surrender, to say yes to God in that moment or over decades, is fundamentally the same.
Yeah, I can see how facing decades of, say, chronic pain or persecution, that green color would demand just as profound an abandonment to God as facing immediate death, maybe even more sustained faith.
It requires extraordinary sustained fidelity, and this is where Schneider connects it all to today. He argues this whole concept of witness of Hardus is incredibly relevant right now. He warns that the church faces new kinds of persecution.
New kinds, what does he mean? Not literal arenas, presumably.
No, not usually physical violence in the West, though that exists elsewhere. He talks about spiritual, cultural, and ideological persecution.
Okay, that's a strong claim. Is he saying everyday disagreements or feeling culturally unpopular is martyrdom? Or is there a specific line he draws?
He draws a pretty clear line, I think. It's not about mere inconvenience. The danger he sees is often more insidious, targeting moral truth, spiritual integrity. It demands conformity, compromise on essential beliefs. He describes it as a growing intolerance for living out the authentic Catholic faith publicly.
Can you give an example of what he considers an ideological trial, just so we understand his perspective clearly?
Sure. One specific thing he brings up is the restrictions some places have put on the traditional Latin Mass. Now, reporting impartially on his view, he sees this not just as a liturgical debate, but as an ideological move.
An ideological move how?
He frames it as an attempt to suppress what he calls the faith of our forefathers, this ancient expression of Catholic worship. For him, restricting conscience and this form of worship acts as a kind of spiritual pressure. It pushes people towards, well, conformity with the prevailing current, whether that's cultural or even within the church. Resisting that pressure, refusing to compromise on what you believe is the authentic faith, that, in his view, can be a form of modern white or green martyrdom.
Okay, that helps clarify his specific viewpoint on that issue, presenting it as he does. And what makes his writing on this feel so grounded is that it's not just theory for him, is it? It comes from lived experience.
Absolutely. He often mentions learning the phrase, keep the faith of our forefathers, directly from his parents. They lived through intense Soviet persecution in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. That's not abstract theology, it's lived reality.
That personal connection must give his words immense weight.
It does. It connects his spiritual insights directly to real-world heroism, where just remaining faithful could cost you everything. He tells the story, for instance, of Blessed Alexis Zaritsky.
The Ukrainian Greek Catholic priest, right?
Yes. Zaritsky died in a Soviet gulag. He suffered for years physical hardship, psychological pressure, simply for being a priest loyal to Rome, that long, drawn-out suffering. It's a powerful example of green martyrdom ultimately becoming red martyrdom. That kind of unbending fidelity is the model Schneider presents.
It sounds like the book doesn't flinch from the reality of suffering, but does it end on a note of, like, despair? Or is there hope in this message?
Oh, definitely hope. That's central. The message is that martyrdom isn't about giving up in despair. It's the ultimate act of love, triumphing over sin and death. Schneider emphasizes martyrs die because they love Christ more than their own lives. Not out of hate for the world, but overwhelming love for him. It's the perfect imitation of Christ's own sacrifice, which was driven by love.
So for you listening, what's the takeaway? What's the call to action from No Greater Love?
It seems to be twofold. First, stand firm. Resist pressures to compromise on essential truths, that subtle push towards silence or moral compromise Schneider talks about in modern culture.
Okay, stand firm. And second,
Second, and maybe this is the core daily practice, unite your own trials, your own struggles. Those quiet white and green martyrdoms, unite them with Christ's suffering. Every sacrifice, big or small, offered up in love, becomes participation in his victory.
that's a powerful way to frame everyday difficulties. Schneider seems to have this almost prophetic outlook then.
You could say that.
Hmm.
He reminds us the church started with martyrdom, and he suggests it will likely face it intensely again before the end. But crucially, he insists the suffering brings renewal.
Renewal through suffering.
Yes, but specifically renewal through sanctity, sacrifice, and love. He's very clear it won't come through, say, political deals or watering down the faith to fit in. It comes from holiness.
Absolutely. The core message seems to be that this witness, this martus, is asked of every believer, whether it's the ultimate red sacrifice or the hidden white discipline or the patient green endurance. Martyrdom in this broader sense is really about living a heroic life of love.
Well put. It's a universal call, tailored to each life.
Which leaves a really potent question for you, the listener, to think about. Having heard these distinctions, red, white, green, and Schneider's sense of urgency about modern challenges, which color of martyrdom, which form of heroic witness might you be called to embrace in your own daily life? It seems the opportunity for heroic love is right there, often in the ordinary.